Hello and welcome back to SnowRunWith.com. In this lecture, we're going to learn about variables. So what is variable, right? So variables are the memory locations which holds any data to be used by any program. That is kind of like the book definition of variables. So variables, in the very simplest term, basically saves the information for you. For instance, let's say you create a string variable called name, and the name equals John. This is a string. So you're saving the name of the person to a variable called name, and then the computer actually allocates that name of the person to one certain location. So that is called variables. So in Java, there are like local variables, instance variable, class variable, and constants. Let's talk about the local variables. So what are local variables? Local variables are declared in methods, constructor, or blocks. To give you an example here, I've got this class called local variables, and I've got this method here, right? You can see it's the instance method because it does not have a static in here. Public void get dog age. So you want to get the age of the dog, right? So I've created this instance method called get dog age. And now you can see here, I've got this age equals 0. Integer data type age equals 0. So that is the local variable because this variable is inside the method. And now what I did was I added 12, age plus 12, and now the dog age is going to be 12. So now if I have this main method, I can call local variables local equal new local variables, and if I do get dog age, I'm going to get the age of the dog. But I cannot access this age variable from this main method here because this age is the local variable. So now let's go down IntelliJ and try to create a local variable here. I'm going to go back in here and create a local variable. So I'm going to call it local variable. So here I'm actually going to do void get dog age, and here, so let's also say here I'm going to actually get the age as a parameter, and here I'm actually going to call int dog age plus 12. Okay, and I'm actually going to do system.out.println. I'm going to say dog age is dog age. All right. So now let's create another static void main string args. So now in here, I'm actually going to do local variable, okay, L1 equal new local variable L1 dot dog age, and here I'm going to say 12, and let's just run this. And now it says here, I added 12 in here, and plus 12, it's going to give you 24. So now if I do L1.dogAge, so I don't have access to this variable because this variable here is inside this method. So this dog age is actually a local variable. So that is the local variable. These local variables are basically inside the methods. That is local variable. So now local variables are visible only within the declared method, constructor, or block. So if you create a variable inside the constructor, that's you can only play around with that inside that method. So what is instance variable then? Instance variable are declared in the class but outside a method, constructor, or any block. Instance variable are created when any object is created with the use of keyword new and destroyed when the object is destroyed. So when we created a getter and setter method, right, we did create a lot of instance variables. So now as soon as you create an object, your variable's instance variable you have access to. Okay, but when it's destroyed, right, when you destroy the object, means when the object is destroyed, you do not have access to that instance variable. Instance variable are visible for all method, constructor, and block in the class. So normally it's recommended to make those variables private. We're going to talk about that one in our future class, why we wanted to make those variables private. Instance variable can be accessed directly by calling the variable name inside the class. Okay, give you an example in here. I've got this employee class in here. I've got this public string name, okay, and this is a public variable, right? That is visible for any child class. Okay, and I got this private int variable that is visible for employee class only. And we're going to talk about this public and why we need that, right? So with this variable right in here, those string name and age, they are both instance variable. Why it is an instance variable? Because it's outside the method, right? You can see here, I have a constructor method. I've got this set age, and I got this display play information. So those variables are outside the method, but inside the class though. And it does not have a static in here, right? That's why it's called instance variable. It does not have a static. It's just the variables in here. So your variable can be public and private, right? So when you have public variable, that is visible for any child class. So you can have access to this name variable in any child class. However, if you have this private variable, it's only accessible to this employee class. We're going to talk about this in our future classes. I'm just giving you an example. I've got this constructor method. method. Okay, I know it's constructor because it has the same name as this class name, and it has one parameter. And I'm actually saying this dot name, which this instance variable equals to this parameter name here. And same thing in here. I'm actually gonna set the age. I'm actually gonna set the age, right? So here I'm actually gonna say this dot age equal age. And then you know that set method does not have a return type. It has a void. And now this display employee information, it's gonna say name is this name and age is this age. So now if I create this another class here, instance variable, and I have this main method here, and I created this object employee1 equal new employee, and since this constructor method requires the string parameter name, so I put a parameter here, Dan, so I can set age 29. So when I do display employee information, I can get the name and age. So you can see here, right, since I have this variable outside the method, see, I can call this name and age in this method here, right? You can see here I was able to call this name and age in any method I like, right? If you had a local variable that is inside this method, I cannot call that variable in another method. Okay, with instance method you can call in another method if that method is inside this class though. Your method has to be inside this employee class, but if you have instance variable, you can call that variables. So that is instance variable. Now let's go back in here, and I'm going to create an instance variable real quick in here, and I'm going to call it instance variables. So now I'm actually going to minimize this in here, or actually I'm going to minimize my IntelliJ. I'm going to create an instance variable. I'm going to call string name private int age. So you don't have to do this, okay? You can just call this. Let's just do this one because I don't want you guys to get confused. Just going to call you this. So this name and age are instance variable, and I'm going to create a constructor method here. Okay, so let's put one parameter in here, string name, and I'm going to say this dot name equal name. What I'm saying is this instance variable equals to this parameter in here. So now I'm going to set age, and I'm going to say void set age equal int age, and I'm going to say this dot age equal age. So here, this is the constructor method. So now I'm going to say display info. I'm going to say public void display info, and here I'm going to say system.out.println. I'm going to say name is name, system.out.println, age is age. So now you can see here, since this name and age was an instance variable, I was able to call in this method, any method, right? Because this name and age are instance variable because they are outside the method. So now if I create this static method here, so I'm going to call instance variables, and let's say I1 equal new instance variable. Since I have a default constructor with the method name, I'm going to say Dan, oops, and I'm going to say I1.display information. So now if I do this, so here it says age is 0 because I have not set the age yet. Okay, so I'm actually going to do I1 set age equal 30, this is 31. So it's going to say the age is 31. And now also, let's say I1.age. All right, let's see what happens here. So here, right, when I said I1.age, since this was an instance variable, I was able to get the variable value. And also, I do println, if I do A1.name, I'm also able to get the name. Let's say here, like I had another method here. Okay, I'm going to say public void set balance. Okay, I'm going to say double balance. I'm going to say here. So let's say I have a double account balance here. So if I want to actually call system.out.println, if I tried I1.account balance, right, it doesn't work. Right? If I run this, it's going to throw an error. It's going to say that variable account balance Java cannot find symbol account balance. The reason why this is because this account balance right here is a local variable. Okay, it's not an instance variable. So you do not have access to this local variable. And the reason why it's local variable is because it's inside this method here. So that is pretty much about the instance variable. Hope you guys learn about what variable, local variable, and instance variable is. So in our next lecture, we're going to talk about the class variable and the constants. So that's it for this lecture. I will see you guys in our next lecture.